Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in today. Today I will continue on my quest to revisit the stories of these cars and more importantly, to document the car's current status or its ultimate fate. So let's get into it. Let's first talk about how this car ended up as Mia's car. During one of our car casting calls, a clean 1995 Integra LS showed up. It wasn't very fancy, but it was clean. The driver was a nice young lady by the name of June Shi. She had some bolt-ons on it. It wasn't overdone. It was clean. It was a good balance, I thought. She was a little shy, but the production team really liked that the car was owned and built by a girl. And that got them thinking, this is a girl's car. It's very authentic, right? Almost immediately, the production team locked in on this car for Mia. But how this car was treated differently from the other cars baffled me at the time. At first, they didn't even put the car on the key list. Usually you bring the car into the picture car warehouse, they write everything down, puts on the key list, and then we get a sheet of what parts we're gonna change. But when they finally filled up the paperwork, I noted that no stunt cars would be built. This is a major character's car. There's not gonna be a stunt car. And of course, most notably, we didn't change any parts on the car at all. We just took it, looked the way it was. All we did was paint it and put the decals on the car. That was it. So I'm thinking now, is it gonna be a background car? Is she actually gonna drive it or whatever? There were no notes, there was no instructions, there was no build sheet, nothing. So it told me that it was basically gonna be a background car, so I didn't pay much attention to it. That story is coming up right after the break. I don't know if you know this, but I actually now have a merch store. And if you haven't checked out the video description below my videos, then you're missing out. Currently, I've got a pack full of movie quote t-shirts and more styles are being added every month and new items are in development right now. So have a look, see if there's anything you like and wear it with pride. The link is in the video description below. And since there was no paperwork for years, it was always thought that this car was a 1994 Acura Integra. It wasn't until later we found out it was a 1995 LS. And to boot, it was a manual transmission. It was dark blue and had nice wheels and a long list of mods. The mods were mostly cosmetic, but there were enough performance parts to prove that the owner knew what she was doing. And she did a great job with it. Years after the movie, I found a build sheet on the internet put together by the owner, June Shi. Unfortunately, I misplaced that document a long time ago, but a fan sent me a copy of it just recently. So I have the actual accurate build sheet from her. The car had an OEM Type R conversion. You Honda geeks, you know all about that. It had a sunny styling carbon fiber hood, which was painted with blue pearl before we got the car because she had painted her car dark blue. I'll get to that in a minute. It also had a sunny styling Type R rear spoiler, which looks good in the car all the time. It also had a Feels Type R front chin spoiler. It also had a set of Zeal side skirts and Zeal rear apron. The car was originally white when she bought it, but it was painted using the metallic lavender from a 1998 Acura CL, and then it was topped off with a nice, beautiful blue top coat, and it looked really good in the sun. The moldings were shaved off the body, and the body kit pieces were all molded into the car the proper way. She didn't skimp on anything, she did it right. The car was equipped with 16-inch gab rims wrapped in 205 45 16 Toyo Proxys T1R tires. The gab wheels were almost identical to a certain set of Blitz wheels. I don't remember the model, but it looked like very close to that. The car also had a 15-piece carbon fiber dash kit. It also had carbon fiber racing pedals, a Pilot carbon fiber shifter and brake handle, a Pilot rear lower stress bar, Type R floor mats. A lot of people did that. Under the hood was an OEM Type R strut tower bar. The car was also fitted with the US Type R gauge cluster. It looks so much better than the factory one for that car. She also put on RSR down springs and Kone adjustable shocks, which gave the car a nice stance and handled better, and it's not too low to go over speed bumps. For style, she put in some Pilot side markers, which were also added. A lot of people were changing their marker lights back in the time, even their headlights and taillights. There was no mention of any kind of aftermarket exhaust system, but I'm sure it wasn't stock. It wasn't big and fat and all that kind of stuff. It was modest and performance oriented. It wasn't a fart kit. The only mod under the hood was the Honda Sport carbon fiber intake and air filter, and that was it. So what we got was a car that was a good, stylish daily driver and it fits a girl. or a guy. And update the look, she added 1998 Integra taillights. So now here's where the story gets foggy. For starters, this car, as I mentioned, was not on the VIN list in the picture car warehouse back then. There was no build sheet because all we did was really paint the car. Second, We have to remember this car was for Mia, played by Jordana Brewster. She didn't even have a driver's license when we started filming. The car was a manual transmission. And although Mick Rogers taught her to drive, he was a stunt director, there was no way Universal would let her do any stunt driving. She just got her driver's license 2 weeks before. So the solution was to buy another 1994 Acura Integra and cut it up so that we could take the shell and mount it on the Mick rig like they did with the Eclipse and other cars in the movie. And so if you remember the big scene where Mia spins her Integra after Brian and Mia finished having their dinner at Cha Cha Cha, if you slow the scene down on your DVD, you're going to see that there's something, it's just not right. Her head's all the way over here and all that. It's not right. It's not natural. So that was the best they could do on a tight budget, but I don't think people noticed. After that scene, though, we didn't see much more of Mia's Integra. It had its time in the spotlight, and the car never came back in another film. Shortly after production wrapped up, all the cars that were rented from people like me, Jun Shi, and all the other people who had their cars slowly go back to Universal and picking up the cars. This was around late in 2000. The movie came out in June 2001, so everybody got the call when they were done with everything. We had to do soundtracks with a lot of these cars. Ultimately, the RX-7 was returned to his owner, Keith Moto. The Jetta was returned to Scott Sentra. We did not record that car. It didn't have a big engine or anything. The S2000 was returned to RJ DeVera. The Letty 240SX was turned to its owner, James Yen. Edwards Integra was returned to its owner, Bill Cole. I, of course, retrieved my Super and Max at a different time. Sean Morris was reunited with his yellow R33 GTR that Leon was driving. And everybody basically did the same thing. As soon as they got the car home, many of us just removed those graphics as fast as we could. Well, not right after, but within a few weeks, because most of these cars were still going into car shows every weekend. Many of us removed the graphics pretty quickly, mostly because driving those cars into a car show of that era would draw laughs and scorn. Most people commented that the graphics were ricey at the least, or worse, childish, and they didn't like it, not at all. Some of us were hired to go to car shows on behalf of Universal. That went on for several months, and so these cars were seen in public even before the movie were released. So people were seeing these cars, they didn't know why they had the decals. It was weird. The owner of Mia's Integra stripped off the decals. She repainted her car back to the dark blue color that she had before the movie, and she started driving it daily like she was doing before. She had the car back from the paint shop in about 30 days, and she drove it for a little less than a month, and then she was hit from the rear with the truck that pushed her into the other car, and that was the end of the car. Destroyed. Totaled. Nothing to salvage. Done. Kaput. Just about that time, though, Universal was gearing up for the Hollywood premiere. Most of us who rented our cars to the movie were asked to come to the premiere to show their cars. But unfortunately, Universal had asked for Mia's car, but I had to call them back and tell them the car was wrecked and it no longer exists. And Jordana Brewster was sad about that. And this is one of the big reasons I stopped driving my Supra. A hero car is valuable, or it will be sooner or later. The car became a liability. You're driving something irreplaceable. So I just said it's time to sell this car. So I don't know how long June would have kept the car, but the true tragedy was that there was no backup car, stunt car, or anything. All they had was the shell, and you can't make a car out of that. The only complete Mia Integra was her cars, and once it was destroyed, it was gone forever. But at least the car got immortalized in the film, right? That's at least something. And June, if you're watching, thanks for your help. That's it for this time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next week. Please, if you like my content, like, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because it helps with the algorithm and it helps my channel. And if you have ideas for content that you would like me to produce, just leave me a comment below. That's it for this week. I'll see you next time.